So, Jack, will you tell me about K-Chung Radio and being a DJ there?
K-Chung Radio is a micro broadcasting station in Chinatown. We're broadcasting Sunday through Thursday, mostly in the evening hours. And pretty much everything that ever happens on the radio happens on K-Chung.
Wow. And my understanding is that you have a show at 8 on Wednesdays, 8 p.m.?
Yeah, that's right. My show is called Reading Radio, and every week I choose something new to read, usually with someone else. I am doing it as a service to the blind and dyslexic.
Is it at all related to reading Rainbow?
Well, it is also reading.
Okay. And I also know that you were a lifelong rock collector. Is that rock music or rock as in like geo rocks?
That would be geo rocks.
Okay. And you enjoy the beach and morning dew as well as empty rooms. Is that correct?
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of potential in an empty room.
Great. Also, experimental documentaries and noisy movie theaters. Is that also true?
Yes.
Great. So I'll end my introduction here by just saying that Jack Hurd here says that he is politically, maintains the position that it is none of his business, but like most things that are none of his business, he is particularly fascinated. With that, Jack Hurd.
Well, thanks a lot for having me. As you've already heard, my name is Jack Hurd, and I came today because I recently had come across a couple of speeches given by political candidates that didn't really receive very much media attention, and I think they're a little bit heavy, sort of dense. Perhaps that's the reason why it really changed my position on a few issues. And it's sort of a shame that I couldn't share this information with you sooner, because many of you have probably already voted, I hope. So this first one is some recent statements that Paul Ryan gave at a private conference with some lobbyists in regard to the Alaska pipeline that has been proposed and is, as far as I know, been temporarily waylaid. He says, "All my life I have returned to the same question time and again. What is the need, that is, what is the truly objective constellation of forces working in us and the world that justifies the creation of something like art? This question has certainly had a central place in my life and has led me to distance myself from my initial involvement in the political field. Before I made this shift, provoked by this question, this search for answers, I began my studies in the political sciences and experienced certain things about the prevailing scientific paradigm which made me realize that an answer would not be found here. In questioning the value of this kind of research, or alternatively, as a means of exploring the overall field of existing forces, including life forces, the forces of the mind, that is of the soul, psyche, spirit, and the higher forms, I was compelled to consider on purely experimental grounds whether I should explore the sphere of art, that is, manifested through time as a form of cultural activity. However, I already had a sense that this fundamental question would remain unresolved there too. And then, during my studies at the Academy, I found that this question about the impetus and source of art, the need for the world to develop and evolve through art, did indeed remain unresolved. I find that art has undergone a kind of parallel development with politics and academicism, with a long tradition going back to the Renaissance, and that people no longer knew exactly what they were trying to do. On the one hand, they were also teachers who, as I saw it, approached the problem as an autonomist or a surgeon would in an operating theater, approaching things in a mimetic way, based entirely on the observation of what is there before you, reproducing it from the same perspective on paper or in spatial form, in other words, copying. On the other hand, there are those teachers who had a radical stylistic approach of their own. However, the source and impetus of their intentions was very hard to discern. They demonstrated a stylistic approach that, if you like, derives from abstract art, which is a popular concept that asserts that abstract forms can also be art. That both these positions obviously had something to do with this question was clear. In this sense, I had teachers whom one could truly call artists. However, the thing that was missing was that all these fundamental questions, that is, the fundamental research into art and its function, could not be answered at the academy. And this increased my resolve to pursue the matter myself. For now, I'll just say this, and I have been pursuing it ever since, though I am not pretending that I haven't gone some way towards subverting and shaking things up in this field a little. However, one thing in particular seems clear to me. This is my favorite part. If the question does not become the central focus of such research and is not resolved in a truly radical way that actually sees art as the starting point for producing anything at all in every field of work, then any thought of further development is simply a waste of time. So I don't know actually really that much about the vice presidential candidate for the Republican Party, but I didn't think that he would feel that way. And it seems as though he's had a change of heart. Now, I have another one here that I think is equally compelling. And it comes from a little, also small forum speech that President Barack Obama gave when he was attempting to distinguish terrorism from spontaneous acts of violence, as he's been accused of not doing a very good job of in regards to the attacks in Libya. The term public signifies two closely interrelated but not altogether identical phenomenon. It means that everything that appears in public can be seen and heard by everybody and has the widest possible publicity. For us, appearance that has been seen and heard by others, as well as by ourselves, constitutes reality. Compared with the reality which comes from being seen and heard, even the greatest forces of intimate life, the passions of the heart, the thoughts of the mind, the delights of the senses, lead an uncertain, shadowy kind of existence, unless and until they are transformed, deprivatized, and de-individualized, as it were, into a shape to fit them for public appearance. The most current of such transformations occurs in storytelling, and generally in artistic transportation of individual experiences. But we would not need the form of the politician to witness this transfiguration. Each time we talk about things that can be experienced only in privacy or intimacy, we bring them into a sphere where they will assume a kind of reality, which their intensity notwithstanding, they could never have had before. The presence of others who see what we hear, and what we hear assures us of the reality of the world and ourselves. And while the intimacy of a fully developed private life such as has never before been known, gives the rise to the modern age and the concomitant decline of the public realm. This will always greatly intensify and enrich the whole scale of subjective emotions and private feelings. This intensification will always come to subjective emotions and the assurance of the reality of the world and America. Indeed, the most intense feeling we know of, intense to the point of blotting out all other experience, is namely, the experience of great bodily pain. And this is, at the same time, the most private and least communicable of all. Not only is it perhaps the only experience which we are unable to transform and shape into public appearance, it actually deprives us of our feeling for reality to such an extent that we can forget it more quickly and easily than anything else. There seems to be no bridge from the most radical subjectivity, in which I am no longer recognizable, to the outer world of life. Pain, in other words, truly a borderline experience between life as a being among Americans and death, is so subjective and removed from the world of things and America that it cannot assume an appearance at all. Since our feeling for reality depends utterly upon appearance and therefore upon the existence of a public realm into which things can appear out of the darkness, out of a sheltered existence, even the twilight which illuminates our private and intimate lives is ultimately derived from the much harsher light of the public realm. Yet there is a great many things which cannot withstand the implacable bright light of the constant presence of others on the public scene. There, only what is considered to be relevant, worthy of being seen or heard, can be tolerated, so that the irrelevant becomes automatically a private matter. This, to be sure, does not mean that private concerns are generally irrelevant. On the contrary, we shall see that they are very relevant matters, which can survive only in the realm of the private. The term public signifies the world itself, insofar as it is common to all of us and distinguished from our privately owned place in it. The world, however, is not identical with the earth or with nature as the limited space for movement of Americans and the general condition of organic life. It is related rather to the human artifact, the fabrication of human hands, as well as to affairs which go on along with those who inhabit the world we have built together. We live together in the world. To live together in the world means, essentially, that a world of things is between those who have it in common, as a table is located between those who sit around it. The world, like every in-between, relates and separates Americans at the same time. The public realm, as the common world, gathers us together and yet prevents our falling over each other, so to speak. What makes mass society so difficult to bear is not the number of people involved, or at least not primarily, but the fact that the world between them has lost its power to gather them together, to relate and to separate them. The weirdness of this situation resembles a spiritualistic seance, where a number of people gathered together around a table might suddenly, through some magic trick, see the table vanish from their midst, so that two persons sitting opposite each other were no longer separated, but also would be entirely unrelated to each other by anything tangible. That's all I've found so far. I hope it doesn't change your opinion too much about anything that you regret voting for who you voted for. I'm sure you all made the right decision. Thank you.